Welcome to another Kyle High Club podcast episode. And as usual, I've got a very special guest. I've got my Luke Timothy James. Welcome.
Oh, what's up, dude? Thanks for having me. I think you're the only person in the world who's determined on pronouncing my name the wrong way around, but I mean, I'm happy with it, so.
I love it. I don't know. I just gotta, it's just good. I don't know. I just love calling you Timmy J. I don't know why.
I mean, it works, bro. So. But yeah. Thanks for having me.
So, Luke.
It's so cool to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, 100%. So Luke and I met at a yachting course last year, and we instantly became friends when he walked through the door, because the instructor said, "There's one person that's late. His name is Luke." And then when you walked through the door, I just yelled out, "Well, look who it is."
Oh, look who it is. Yeah. And at that point, I completely forgot who you were, because we had met before, hey? But
I
very
think we
briefly.
saw each other before, but I don't think we formally met, because I think in that first interaction after I said it, we had this brief moment where we looked at each other like, hey, this guy actually looks kind of familiar.
Yeah. Do I know you or do I want to know you? Definitely the latter. Definitely. Yeah.
Exactly. So, Luke, you were the proprietor of Your Trade.
Exactly. Yes.
How did you come about that business model? How did that even start to happen? Tell me a little bit about it, and everybody who doesn't know what it is, just give us a little rundown of how you went from just thinking about this whole entire idea and business model and actually getting it out for the world to see.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. So it all started in 2016 when me and two other friends decided to open up a little market food business. We sold French donuts called beignets, and the business was called Beignet Brothers. And we would operate at your local markets, Foy's Farmers Market, Maboneng, neighbor goods markets, and like a few other that was like, and we would also, really try to branch out and grow and do lots of music events, and like just get to busy places. And I think what was so unique about the business was that all of us, obviously, it looked like three brothers that had opened this donut shop, and we all wore yellow
Nice.
hats, these bright yellow hats, and blue aprons and grey ties and smart shirts. I think that also was a bit weird because we had these guys selling donuts in long sleeve smart shirts at markets,
Yeah, a little gimmick to it.
Yeah, exactly. And we would
Had a
also
little
sing to
gimmick
people.
to it.
We figured out later on that singing, like we had to do little chants, like we would use people's names, and we would say things like, one of our well-known ones was, if we gave you a little donut as a taster, we would all shout, "Ooh, tasty!" And like it was interesting. People absolutely cringe, or they like responded in a positive way, but either way, it stuck around. It reminded people of us, and we did things like that. And I think throughout that journey, I did all of the organizing of our events and all of our marketing and photography. And through that journey with that business, I saw a huge problem for small that I wanted to solve with small businesses. And I mean, like market businesses are micro level. It's not like an SME that's doing 2 to 5 million rand turnover a year. It's a really, really small business that's living like on like cash, and they depend
and it's
on their
basically you have like basically weekends and special events where you can go actually run your business.
Well, that's exactly what I was about to say. That so they depend on their weekly to monthly trade. They don't have a brick and mortar every day to be able to advertise and do deliveries from. Some of them have built that in their own homes, in their own space, but majority of market businesses rely on these non-regular events, you know. So through doing that, I saw there was quite a big gap because the obviously markets were on the rise in South Africa. They still are, especially in Pretoria. Um, and we was event organizers that obviously saw this gap because it was also pretty new when you were getting music events that had a lot of food and craft traders attached to them. You know, that they kind of changed,
Yeah.
pioneered this new music event where you have a full market attached to a full music event, music festival. And by doing that, I think a lot of the organizers, well, what we experienced was that they were lying and just misleading small businesses. And they would say things like, they'd make promises like you would, you know, you've got to pay X amount, which is an exorbitant rate, pay X amount, and there's guaranteed 5,000 or 3,000 people. You're the only trader of your kind, only 10 traders. So they had a lot of misleading facts to buy in, to get small businesses to buy into the events. And then you end up either making a loss or doing really, really badly, and it doesn't become worth your time. So I was quite frustrated,
Yeah.
and I felt like this problem that, I mean, obviously personally, I felt like it was a problem I was taking on my own. But then I realized that there were so many small businesses experiencing the same thing, and I think that's when I reached out and I said, okay, cool. My next step is I'm gonna open a market or take over. I want to start a market so I can create a trade, a space for small businesses to pay less and fair rates and get a higher return. Like I always put the traders first. And so that's how it happened.
Yeah.
I was applying to open a market in Waterkloof. And they came back to me and said, hey,
Waterkloof.
Waterkloof, yeah. And they came back to me and said, sorry, the shopping center that you applied for is just doesn't have enough parking and to be unsafe. And at that time, they were having a huge dispute with the organizer of the previous organizer of the market at the South Downs, and they were the same owners. So they just said to me, hey, let's meet up at South Downs, at the South Downs shopping center. Let's discuss you possibly taking over that market. And so that's all where it began. That's kind of where that journey began of Yar, because they said to me, hey, after we met up, they liked what they saw. I made a few promises to about changes I would make to the market, like adding a lot more features, lighting, security, medicals, like ambulances and that kind of thing, and a better bar, just a better setup with fencing and chairs and stuff. And they said, okay, we're going to give you one shot. We're going to give you one market. You've got this one market that's coming up. You can run it, and if you prove it to us, then we will, then we'll look at it. You know.
So I
So
also saw that you basically had a situation where you had tiny shops within the Colonnade and Irene, where you basically had that brick and mortar dynamic for these marketers as well.
so that came a lot later. So we ran Yard Trade ran the markets for a few years before we saw the opportunity to do pop-up shops. So the shops aren't, see, I think the winning and also the risk to these shops is that they're not permanent contracts or rental agreements. They were pop-up based shops that that sold products on behalf of small businesses and then paid them weekly on whatever we sold.
Yeah, I think that is such a brilliant model because, for a small business owner who basically, like you said, only rely on special events and markets and everything like that, being able to have your thing seen in a mall has got a lot of value to it. And you don't really have time for contracts, or perhaps you just want to see if there's going to be a need for your products in the world. So being able to have like a month-to-month contract within a pop-up shop where people are going to go at, I thought that was probably like one of the most brilliant things I've seen in quite a long time.
Thanks. Yeah, and what also, what surprised us quite a lot is that a lot of the businesses that ended up that we in had that brought into the shops weren't actually frequent market goers. They were businesses who went to more your craft events, but they actually sold a little bit of craft online. And to be fair, we actually weren't the first business to do those pop-ups. It is already around. It goes on. It's a model that's been going around, which obviously we learned about that as well. I think the difference that we did, we just attached it to a brand that I was aggressively building on social media and aggressively building with markets, and that together, I think, made the brand a lot stronger.
I think that is your key right over there, and that's why I only know about Jaws because it's the brand that you push. Because I've seen the markets, and I even played at some of the markets as a musician myself, and I've seen these pop up shops in, like I said, in the Arini and the Colonnade and everything. But it's only because you've built the brand. Like, I didn't even know that anything else like that existed because there wasn't a brand attached to it. So I think brand development plays a really big role with any type of business that you create. I mean, even with your donut shop there, you guys developed a little brand to make yourself memorable. And with regards to your trade, you could take that same model from the markets and put it in a pop-up shop dynamic, and people would recognize because you've already aggressively marketed that brand.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that was the key with both businesses. I mean, in Beignet Brothers, that's what I focused on studying from the day one, was the how to build the brand and create a following on social media, and just create that loyalty. Obviously, you can't just be good on social media and uh, uh, not have the same value in person. So we strived to uphold, like to hold that value. So our donuts were always fresh. Our uniform was always clean. Our setups were always
Yeah,
the same, if not very similar, but they were clean cut and easy to use for us. So they were duplicatable, and our team always had energy, so that when we sang loudly. And like, so
yeah.
those things that helped us push, like really push the brand. I mean, at one point we were able, and it was a very short period, I think we were running the business for, I mean, it must have been 13 months. And we started the donut business with 2,000 rand. That's what we had. That's how we started. And
Wow, wow.
after months, we were able to be in 8 locations on a single day. So that growth was really good. And that came with the brand. That came with really pushing that brand. And so I just took that. And obviously, going into your trade, going into your, that was obviously a much bigger challenge, now building a brand for public events. So my photography took on a big role, and the social media took on an even bigger role, because I ended up doing all of our designs, not for the social media when we built it later on, but the designs for our event flyers and our event communication, um, and our logos for the different markets, and all the photography. So that was really what the focus was. Like, the focus was 100% pushing that brand. And the goal was for people, when they see the word "yah," they know what we are.
So tell me a little bit about your military background, because I know you explained you were in the military before. And do you think what you've learned in the military and what you've experienced there, you basically got yourself a foundation where you can apply it in life, and you basically chose business from that dynamic?
I think so. I think my next step after the military was business. It's obviously changed now a bit, but I think that the lessons that I learned, that definitely the biggest lesson for me was smiling in the face of adversity. Not to say that if you can laugh at something, it'll go away, but just simply
It's like, I wish I could just laugh at all my bills. They can
not.
go away.
It's that, like, through it taught me that if you can smile about a situation and you can find a little bit of humor in it, you can probably find a solution. And
Yeah.
that I've just kept, and it's just helped build resilience. I mean, there's, I think young entrepreneurs will learn that, and I also learned this at a young age from listening to a successful female entrepreneur, and she said, if you're not willing, if you're not willing to die for your business, it's probably not going to reach the goals that you've set for it. And it sounds very hectic, it sounds drastic, but it comes to that. Like with Beignet Brothers, there was a point where there was a few times where we were flat broke, where we had huge mountains to climb, where we just didn't see this thing getting better. And the same
Yeah.
came with Yacht. There was just moments where it just didn't look like this was this was a rainbow on the other side of the dark cloud, and we just kept on going, and just, you as a problem comes up, you solve it, and you move on, and you just keep moving forward, and eventually those clouds go away, and the problems are solved, and you end up better than you were before because you learned great lessons in the process.
I love that. If you're not willing to die for your business, it won't succeed, because in essence, your business, if you choose that business, it's your livelihood. If you're not willing to fight for, between inverted commas, your life, then what is the fucking purpose of living in the first place?
Exactly. And I think that it's also a statement that you can apply away from business in a personal space. You can apply that to, if you're not willing to die for your goals, they aren't the right goals for you. Like, if you're
Exactly.
not willing to really stretch out and put everything on the line for a goal, and that doesn't mean, like, it's obviously a very different situation for each person. Like, it doesn't mean go and stand off a bridge and like threaten to like commit suicide unless someone fucking pays a bill, you know. Like, if
Yeah.
you're in a situation where you're uh in that space, I highly recommend seeking that help for that, and creating a community for you. But everyone's goal is different, and every goal has a different road to being achieved, and everyone's like
A
what
different outcome towards that goal.
and everyone's difficulties are different. So what you might see as not difficult, or like as a problem you might see that's easy to overcome, I might think is extremely hard. Like, I might, in my perspective, in my norm, that problem might be a huge mountain, but for you, it's an anthill, you know. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I think that thought of, if you're not willing to die for your goals, it's, if you're not willing to put everything on the line, like go through the challenges that you think are really tough for you, go through them, experience them, learn from them, become what you need to become, so that you can be the person that deserves the goal, that creates that life for the goal, you know?
I think yes, I think discipline comes to mind. If you don't have the right discipline to applying yourself to certain things, and you're right, everybody's problems are relevant towards them. What's easy
Yes.
for me is difficult for someone else. And you can't measure yourself with anyone else's ruler. You're living in your own little universe, and you need to make use of the tools that you have been given, and the experiences that you have experienced, and the knowledge that you have, to make sense of what is happening within your solar system. And I think, coming back to discipline, if you have got the discipline to just achieve the small goals or the big goals that you want to achieve, were relevant towards your tools that you have accessible towards yourself, you will achieve them. But I don't think everybody does have that discipline. It's so easy to just take the easy way out and listen to anyone else as well. Because I had this conversation with someone the other day. How hard is being too hard on yourself? Because it's easy when you go speak to someone, because normally when you speak to someone, you already know the answer in your head, what you want to hear. Oh, I'm having such a hard time. And then people would say, that's okay, man. These things happen to everyone, versus you actually needing to be a little bit hard on yourself and disciplined to say, you know what? I actually need to work towards something to achieve that goal, and everything like that. And I think that's why I wanted to mention your military background. You talked about your uniforms needed to be clean, everything needs to be ready to get go, and everything needs to be perfect to be able to achieve your goals from that point onwards. So, where's the middle ground between being hard on yourself and disciplined and listening? Who do you listen to? I mean, that is such a vast trifecta of factors in order to just make sense of being alive.
Yeah, and I definitely agree. Like discipline is obviously something that I learned heavily, and I think uh, it comes. You train, and this is what I learned. It took like in the beginning of your training, you overwhelmed with the fact that you have to keep this little metal bucky fucking polished all the time, and you have to make sure there's no rust on your rust-free gun, and you have to make sure your polished boots are polished again every day, and you've got to do all these little things consistently. You have to make sure that the strap on your bag is tied up, because if that strap gets caught while you're hiking a mountain on a tree, you could delay something, or you could possibly like end up dead, right? And like it's those small things that you practice. It starts at home. I always have believed that your the outside world starts with the inside world, which is at home. And if you wake up and you do small things, and I mean practice doing small things like waking up and making your bed, waking up, and the
Yeah.
first thing you do, you have a morning routine, and you consistently follow a morning routine of small tasks: making your bed, making your cup of coffee, cleaning the cup when you're finished, brushing your teeth, writing a journal, whatever it is that you do in the morning. And those small things will over time create the understanding, because how you do one thing is how you do everything. And if you can complete the small tasks on a consistent basis, you're going to continue doing that small thing in the big things.
Listen, that is such a beautiful thing that you just said. The way you do one thing is how you do everything. That to me is amazing, because the passion you do your dishes with, the same passion you brush your teeth, and the same passion you take care of yourself and make your bed, and how you apply yourself in that small things is how you will achieve anything else in the world. That is such a beautiful line.
But it's exactly, and it's also, it's not just the passion and the energy behind it. Well, obviously energy comes from how you're feeling as well, but and how you do things. But it's also like, if you're an anxious person, and this came up for me recently, like if you're an anxious person, you're gonna not just be anxious about, there's obviously a thing that's a cool thing that's making you feel anxious in that moment, but that anxiety doesn't just stop when you stop thinking about that thing. You carry the anxiety through your day until you address it, you know? And that means that you're going to do
Yeah.
tasks, and that's going to come up in different ways, and you won't realize it, but it does. It happens. Or if you're super excited about, like, let's say you've just scored a huge business deal, or you've scored, your girlfriend's just said yes to you, or your new girlfriend has just said yes to you because you asked her you asked her out. That excitement carries on through things, and like if you're not aware of that, those things could either do better, or like they could increase the outcomes or decrease the outcomes of in other places throughout your day or your life. You know?
So how I see it, what you just mentioned, and I'm looking at my own life, how I spend, like I am exactly the same with regards to people who know me. I'm very clean, I'm very organized, and I file everything where I need to file them. I wash my dishes, and first thing I do in the morning is make my bed and organize things. And exactly what you just mentioned, but how I see it is, imagine you have a little progress bar on top of your head, right? And how I
Right.
see it is, if I keep that progress bar full at all times, when I do have downtime, let's say I am depressed, or I'm having a shitty day, or something happened to me that's really horrible, that progress bar doesn't go all the way empty. So if I had a shitty day out in the office or wherever, and I come home and my house looks like a piece of shit, how are you going to feel then? And how are you going to wake up the next morning if you wake up in like filth and everything like that? So I just see it as like basically, keeping that progress bar full. So you don't have 24/7 have to clean everything and whatever. I mean, even if you have like dishes piled up for a day, I didn't want to do my dishes today. At least it's not, like 5 days worth of dishes and you don't want to do it and that just piles back up. So that's why I say, like, I see that as like keeping that progress bar full. So you do have room for error for lack of a better term.
So, I mean, I agree with you to an extent. I think that your progress bar has to go up and down. It's natural and it's normal for it to to go through periods where you're not so progressive and you're not so like. Remember, rest is also progress. And so is saying no to things and
Exactly. Yeah.
moving. And sometimes, like sometimes you just, like you said, you just don't feel like doing the fucking dishes, so you're not going to do them. And if that's okay, then to be
Yeah.
happy with it, be happy with the fact that it might bug you a little bit more, you know. But then that's the outcome. That's the choice you make. And if your progress bar does dip, I think that's also why we have communities and we have like you. It's just so important. I mean, Maslow's hierarchy of needs teaches you that it's so important to have a community in your life and to have those basic needs met, because sometimes when your progress bar is going to go down because you're in a bad space, because when bad things happen, of course it affects your progress, because you're not gonna either be in the mood or it'll affect your mood, so you're not going to have the energy or the will to carry on doing the things that you were doing when you were in a good mood. And that's why we have things, places
Yeah.
like these and friends that we can reach out to so that we can get back onto filling our progress bar, because there are going to be times in your life where that progress bar
That
is going.
is such a beautiful thing. That's such a beautiful thing if you combine but that's why that if you combine the way, the ambition you live your life and the discipline you live your life, if you combine that with the right community, sorry for interrupting you, if you combine that with the correct community, that is absolutely golden. And I think people in today's age struggle to choose the right community.
Yeah, perhaps they struggle to choose the right community, or they don't know how to look for the right one. There's if you're in a people want to be accepted, and that's how you do things that creates or that leads to a community, whether it's big or small, to accepting you. So, and that's what also being being sober since August last year taught me so much about that, and that it's so often that people, and I'm not saying drinking is a bad thing. I'm not against it, like in that sense. I think it's a social thing that people do, and if you choose to have alcohol in your life, that's great. But what I realized through that process was how often I would just pick up a beer just because someone else did, just because I was in a space where I wanted the person I was with. And it was so subconscious, I didn't even realize that that's the space. I just, in the moment, I was like, oh, cool, of course I'll have a beer with you. But later on,
Yeah,
looking back,
like a
I would look back
no-brainer.
like a no-brainer. But now looking back, I'm like, ask the question is, how many times are you doing something unconsciously just because someone else is doing it? And is that because that's your community that you want to be a part of? Or is it because you actually want to do that thing? And most of the time, if you're around other people, it's going to be because they're doing it and you want to be accepted by them.
Listen, that's very beautiful to hear that you are still going strong with the quitting drinking, and I love hearing that. And when I first quit just alcohol in general, I lost a whole entire community of my life. And at first, I was like very sad about it. It's like, wow, I've known these people for many years, 10 to 15 years of that. I've known these people in my life, and they just don't want to hang out with me. And that's when I first learned, like, just because you know someone for a very long time doesn't really mean they're good for you. It took me a very long time to realize, you know what? The people that stick around in your life, they are important. Why are we so quick to try and, please people that actually don't have any value to your life. Yeah, well, let's go have a beer with this guy, but how well do I actually know him? I know him for 15 years, but I just go have beers with him at a bar. Like, you don't really know anything about this person technically, you know? And that's
Yeah.
why I say, like, choosing the right community is really important.
And that's exactly like I 100% agree with you. And like, it's, it's exactly what I said earlier is it's not that people don't choose the right community. It's that they don't know how to choose the right community. I think that because like, it's also risky, as you said, you've probably felt quite rejected and you probably felt quite alone when you lost. By making a healthy decision for yourself, you lost a lot of unhealthy people. But in the process, I think what you didn't see was that you gained space for healthy people. And it's that process that it's scary. It's scary to know that this decision is probably going to push people away that I have been, like you say, friends with for 15 years. And it's that, and people are, it's scared. The change is always scary. Change is a mountain you've got to climb. But it's such a beautiful thing to climb because once you've climbed it, the people who aren't meant for you would have stayed at the bottom of your mountain, and the ones who are meant for you, you probably would have met on the way up.
It brought me a lot of clarity, and with that came a lot of introspection, because I basically didn't really take note of who I am as an individual ever in my whole entire life, ever. And then it went from not having alcohol, like, okay, what do I do now? Okay. Then I started, exploring, like being creative or starting a business or, doing all kinds of things. But from that, I started, archiving my thoughts and thinking about why am I like I am, and why did these people exit my life? And I just basically saw a metamorphosis of tracking down from where I came from to where I am today. I always saw myself, I'm an extrovert. I'm the life of the party. If you see me at a music festival, you pretty much know you're gonna have a fucking great time with me, right? And then I
Right.
went from that to, you know what? I actually don't like being around a lot of people.
Yeah.
I actually like my own space. I actually like chill, put one-on-one or intimate conversations with people. And I look back like, wow, did it really take me to leave one substance to realize what I actually am and how I dislike all of the things that I thought I liked? But the only reason I thought I like it because I needed to be drunk to be in that situations, because if I had to be sober in that situations, I would have never even been there.
And dude, I have to, I've got to resonate with you on that because that's exactly what I went through as well. Through I mean, I never get with this. I've tried to, when I say tried in the past, I've never really been a fan of drinking. I've had periods before where I haven't drank before. It's not a new occurrence for me to not want to drink. But the difference is this time I just stopped. I didn't give myself a deadline. I didn't say, yeah, when. I just said, no, I'm not going to do this anymore. Like, this doesn't align with me. I'm done. And through that process, exactly the same thing has happened in the sense that, like, and I realized that a lot of the reasons why I was in business and I really aggressively grew these brands and businesses was because I found huge pleasure in making money. And I think that because alcohol is definitely a substance that wants you to that teaches you to chase pleasure because it lowers inhibitions. When I stopped this whole journey, when I stopped drinking, I started really reflecting on who I am and what I enjoy and where I want to go. And then it just hit me. I was like, dude, so much of my life has been spent around psychology, and so much of my life has just spent around, like, I've been interested in being a learner, interested in being an academic. So that's what I'm doing. So that's what my next and my current and next step is. Is to explore the passion and the interest I have in psychology and to follow that field, because that's what I've been doing since I left the military. Indirectly, I've always found myself reading and studying and in conversations and around people. And I think it was from that, removing that environment, that social, drinking, drunk, pleasured, and tempting environment, I was able to say, hey, what does Luke want? Where is Luke and who is Luke and who is he? And let's get to know him a bit more. And it's a beautiful thing, because I'm glad you saying that you've gone through that is almost confirmation that it's exactly what's happened with me. And it's awesome.
Because with alcohol, you remember when you earlier said, you need to live from home outwards, right?
Right.
It all starts at home. With alcohol, you're basically contradicting that whole entire theory, because you're ignoring your mind inside and you're living, outwards with alcohol, the fun chase and the pleasure outside. And I don't, I'm feeling bad, so that's okay. I'll just have a couple of beers and then I go. But that's contradicting that whole entire theory. And by eliminating alcohol, I started living from inside my mind outwards.
Exactly.
If I understand myself better, I can enjoy my life better. If I understand why I am like I am when I'm depressed, what do I need to get back up on my feet? If I'm feeling anxious, what do I need to not feel anxious? And you know what to do in those instances, instead of like feeling shit the whole entire time. I told people, I don't know if I told you, I know I told, well, on the course, I was bunking with Tian there in Hout Bay. I don't know if I had this discussion with you, but something like a Rubik's Cube changed my life and my thought process.
Okay.
So imagine a
Wow.
Rubik's Cube is your mind, right? And it's a toy, Everybody has seen a Rubik's Cube, but you know how many people can't solve it?
Yes.
It's like, it's so crazy. Like 90%, well, I'm not gonna use percentages, but majority of the world has always looked at the Rubik's Cube like, I've never been able to solve that thing. And
Well, they say I can do two
I'm
sides.
sorry?
They'll say, like a lot of people say, no, I can do two sides.
Yeah, or I can do two sides, or I can do the bottom or whatever like that, right? And I took this toy and I wanted to figure it out. I was thinking like, listen, this is a child's toy. How hard can it be? And I was playing with this thing for ages and ages and ages. And I figured out, you need to do the bottom and then the sides and then you match it. And then I realized everything is just color coding. You just color code everything and then
Right.
you can solve it easy. And I started seeing like, listen, this is my mind. So if someone comes and scrambles this Rubik's Cube, I know how to solve it again. So I took that
Yes.
same thinking and mentality and thinking, if I get to know myself, my mind, and what I am, what I like, what I don't like, what I need to overcome and achieve certain things, when I'm down, where I need to go up when I'm up, how to humble myself. If the world comes, unexpected things come and scramble my life, my brain and everything like that, I know the
Yes.
algorithms to fix it again. Because what I think about it is something as simple. If you don't spend time on the Rubik's Cube, you'll never solve it. If you don't spend time to get to know who you are, life is going to get to you. So,
Yeah, exactly. And like yeah, I 100% agree with you. I think that's a beautiful thing. Sorry for interrupting you.
no.
Um,
No, I was finished. But all I wanted to say was, I see my brain as a Rubik's Cube. When life hits me fucking hard and I'm at the lowest of the low where I am in the world, it might take me some time, but I actually know exactly what I need to do to solve my Rubik's Cube again.
yeah, and that literally comes with that, like you said, it comes with that first step of saying, okay, who am I? And that's when in that, with that question, you've got a choice in that moment. Is, are you going to lie to yourself and say and tell yourself you are who you want to be, or are you going to lie to, or are you going to be honest and say, okay, this is who I am. This is exactly where I'm at. And this is the person that I am right now. And that's the first step of saying, okay, this is who I am and this is who I want to be. How am I going to get there? And you start to take these small steps, and you do this work, and you go to therapy, and well, you do therapy, whether it's meditation or reading books or speaking to friends or actually going to seeing a professional. I recommend any of them and all of them. And it's those small things that are building blocks, and that's how you figure out the different colors of your mind, and you figure out how to place the different interests and your different, like, your habits, and how to overcome, like, if and you deal with anxiety now. Okay, you've researched and you've gone and taken the right steps, the healthy steps to figure out how to deal with it. When it comes up again and again in the future, you've got something to lean on. Whether it's going to work or not, if it doesn't work, it'll give you an opportunity to learn something new, but you still have something to lean on. You've got something where you can, or like if you are sad, it's the same thing as if you're sad or angry. If you have an anger issue and you normally react very aggressively, and this time you don't, you have that to lean on. That's a building block. That's something you
Exactly.
can turn
Yeah.
around and say, okay, last time I did this, I handled this very similar situation successfully. I want to do that again. How can I achieve that? You know?
And something that you mentioned earlier was, I think most, I speak, I'm going to speak for myself then. I don't want to point fingers to the world, but let me personalize this. For too long, I was lying to myself, thinking I am something
Oof.
that I knew I was not. And I think I used alcohol as a way to numb that, because I knew I was lying to myself and I was actually projecting it out. A version of myself, which I knew was, between inverted commas, fake. And I projected that into the world. And I never really realized how powerful the word ego death is. I've heard that word for a very long time in my life. It's like, oh, suffer ego death. Yeah, just hashtag humble, stay humble, dude. But, you know, actually seeing a version of yourself that you basically, because you've been lying to yourself for so long, and it became like a character that you created and you portray that into the world. I mean, I could resonate with Jim Carrey when he said, like, Jim Carrey doesn't exist. That's a character that I play, you know? And, you know,
Yes.
actually telling myself, Kyle, that version of yourself, that lie that you told yourself for so long, that thing that you projected out for all of these years, you need to kill that version for yourself. I mean, how do you go to, let's say, for instance, I had to move away from a certain area, from Pretoria, just to take myself out of that, because when I first quit drinking and tell people like, listen, I actually don't like certain things, or I'm an introvert, and then you've been telling or doing something for so long, people who know you for like those for 15 years, like, dude, I know you, that's not like you, you're not like that. And to be told like that the whole time, and you're trying an effort to kill that version that you create, and you've been reminded about that the first time. And that's why I say, that ego death is a lot harder than people think. But I think also at the same time, the point I wanted to make was, it was probably the best thing that has possibly happened to me, is stop lying to myself, just be as authentic as I can, and just try and figure out that little Rubik's Cube in my mind in order to just take on life.
There's a few points that you brought up that are beautiful, and I think you gave me goosebumps when when you said, I'm not going to point fingers, I'm just going to speak for myself, and you personalized it, and you really got vulnerable, and I want to thank you for that, because it gave me goosebumps that you're so vulnerable about that. And I think that's what, that's that process of just opening up, and that's when you start to, like, you realize that things need to change, that you've been lying to yourself, and you have to, like you say, move out of an area, and that's what it takes. That's great. And like, and I can resonate with you as well, because then that's why I said business was very much, and I do believe I'll be in business in the future, but I also felt like I've had to, now I live overseas, and I don't I don't work in South Africa, but I had to do that. Look, it was a plan I had for a long time, but it always felt like I had to do that so I could let go of the Luke that I had to find. Luke James. I let go of Luke, who was lying to himself. Who was like he was telling himself, "You need to get money. You need to make money because that's successful. This is it. And drinking is okay. And like running these businesses is that's what you are." And the same thing when I
Yeah.
left these environments and I let go of the business and that kind of thing. People were shocked. They were like, "But this isn't you. This isn't what you're about. You're such a businessman, and you're such a money focused person." And it's like, no,
Yeah.
no, that's not. And that's not who I am. That's what I've been doing. That's not who I am. That's just what I've been doing. And when you start to actually face these walls and start to break them down, it leaves you feeling like you're nowhere. But like
Yeah.
I said earlier, opportunity to find out where you're going to go and where you're meant to be, you know?
I think that's why it's so important to get to know yourself, because you find out what it is that you need to move on. You need to get out of
Yeah.
business. I need to get out of the area. Everybody needs to achieve something to get where they want to be, because everybody has got something that they aspire to, a version. We all have that version of ourselves that we want to be, that we know is good for yourself, for your soul. You will want to be that, and that's why it's so important to archive and to take track and to just figure out what it is that you need, and what and
Yeah.
for that little Rubik's cube to be solved, and that's relevant, as well as the problems are relevant to each one of those persons. The solutions are also relevant to each one of that person. There is no blanket solution. There is no blanket problem or blanket solution to every single problem. Everything is relevant into you, and the more time you spend to basically find out who you are and be courageous enough to kill that version of yourself that you're lying to yourself about, I feel you're at the
Yeah.
first step to accomplishing any goal that you will put your mind to.
I agree with you. And I must, there is no, and I agree with you. And I think that there's no blanket solution for each specific problem. But I do feel like there are blanket solutions to get you to a specific solution, if you know what I mean. So there's blanket steps. So reading is definitely a blanket step, and journaling, therapy, and meditating, whether it's praying or meditating in your own space. I think that those are blanket steps to finding specific solutions. I think you can agree with me, especially with the journaling,
Yeah.
because it was actually you. I mean, I used to journal a lot, but then I took a break for that period, and it was actually you that turned to me last year and said, "Hey, why don't you journal again? Like, what happened to, why don't you just take a minute or 5 minutes out of your day every day and just write your thoughts out on a piece of paper?" And I was like, you know what, Kyle, I'm gonna do that. I'm just gonna journal, whatever. And the outcome and the process since that is so phenomenal. Like it's you leave nothing behind. You leave nothing unsaid. Even if it's just to yourself, you leave nothing unheard. And you leave no you also allow yourself to connect with the lessons that you learn through each day. I mean, especially if you're a person who is looking for lessons in other situations, you're allowing yourself to connect fully with those lessons because you're looking at them more than once, and you're exploring a lesson. And even if the day is just you wake up and you say like, "Yes, see, what a shit day yesterday was." End of story. Like
Yeah.
that's it. But it's all you need. That's all you need, because that's maybe just the space. I'm not in the mood to journal fully, like 100% journal today, but I'm still journaling. I'm still completing the task because I'm disciplined.
I
So
I
you
even have got
see,
some
you
pages
know
where
what I
I
mean?
literally just say nothing happened today. That's it.
Yeah. I can recall I have a page somewhere that just says "fuck this."
Yeah.
End of it. end, end. And I
You
was like,
you
great.
know
Me
what happened
today.
on that day though. You know exactly what happened on that day, and
Ah,
that's enough. That's more than enough.
exactly. Yeah, you know exactly. You know what made you feel that way. You know who pissed you off. You know everything about that. All you wrote was "fuck this," you know,
Yeah.
and that's all you need sometimes. And that's like so. That's it. I think that there's blanket steps that we can take to finding specific solutions. And I also compel people, and I always ask them how they solve these solutions or how they came to them, because you don't know you don't know who has the same problem you faced. And by sharing it, you might be solving someone else's problem before they have to go through the same turmoil you've been through. You know,
The, the,
you might be bringing solutions to the table that are crucial for someone else just by sharing them, just by sharing a lesson you've learned. You know,
but most important, right? Those things are crucial to you because
of
you
course.
can read back on that in the same situation where you are years ago, and you remember this is what I did, this is what happened. And that information can be crucial to you, and you're like, oh yeah, I remember, and this is what I did, and you can do the same thing to achieve this, the same goal, or you can avoid something. And here's one of the most important things why I started journaling to tie in with my previous story. And I think I say it a lot on my podcast, but you can't lie to yourself in your journal. There's no way.
No,
There's no way
no.
you can lie to yourself in a journal. I can write in a journal right now, I am very sad. And I know if I read it back again, I wrote that as a joke because I was actually having a good day. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
you can't lie to yourself.
And even if it's not a joke, you got to look back and be like, I like it. Like, I
Yeah.
see you. You
Yeah,
know?
exactly. So
Um,
that's one of the beauty that got me through that ego death was just like I can't lie to myself in a journal. And reading back, I was like, oh, dude, what the fuck are you writing over there? Who are you bullshitting? You can't bullshit anyone in this thing. It's just you.
and also like you say, like reflection. I mean, you brought up a good point there is how good, how good and powerful reflection is. I mean, you know that I'm hugely into my photography, and I take thousands of photos in a year. And what I tend to do is like through this, or what I do like a lot now is I'll just go and surf through photos. I'll just go and surf through, and I'll just go and reflect on times, because for me they're memories. For me, photos are a story. For me, photos bring up. It's just like looking at a page in a journal where I see a photo and I'm like, wow, I know exactly what happened on that day, how I felt, the emotions, and it's the same thing as like Bob Proctor teaches a lot about at the end of your year. You take 2 weeks in December and you just reflect on everything you've journaled about. And you reflect on everything that you've gone through in that year. You take 2 weeks to just do it slowly, and you go through everything, and you make down, you take, you make notes of the key lessons and the key points that you want to take forward with you. And those you can put up on like a little piece of paper, or you make a little poster that you put on your wall, and like that can be a part of your daily dream board, or however you see it. But that reflection is so important because it reminds you the values of lessons, and it reminds you the values of people. It also sometimes just reminds you of people because you forget about people. You forget, and it reminds you that you should just probably reach out. Reach out and just have a little bit of some communication there. But it's just so valuable. I find reflection extremely valuable and healthy to be able to do as a regular thing.
You meditate, you say. Do you meditate daily?
So I meditate, I pray. That's my
Yeah.
meditation.
Wow.
I I spend, and this is just how I do it. I don't. I never want anyone to do the same thing as me. And if you are, do you have a relationship with God and you want to try it out, sick. But I read, I've committed to reading the Bible every day, but not like just random. I was a bit annoyed. Okay, I'm going to share something with you,
Yeah,
Carl. I was a
go
bit
for it.
annoyed last year when a lot of my godly friends or people or even just pages would share simple quotes and verses out of the Bible, because I've never actually read the Bible cover to cover,
Yeah.
and I was just a bit frustrated. I was like, I'm so bored. The exact thought I had was, I'm so bored of always receiving these quotes, the fruit, but not knowing what the other parts of the tree looks like.
Yeah, you
So I
well,
said,
what
fuck.
related to that quote? You know, what the story behind that specific quote is. I was thinking exactly the same thing. People speak like this one line. Like, imagine you just take
Yes.
one line out of a whole entire book. I mean, that doesn't give that line value. Yeah, I can
Yes.
resonate
So
with that. Yeah,
So I thought, okay, fuck it. This is what I'm going to do. Every morning, I'm going to read 3 chapters out of a book. I started with Songs of Solomon and just made my way through until wherever I am now. I'm currently in John. And like, I just decided, it doesn't matter they take me how long. I'm just going to read, whether the chapters are short or long. I'm just going to read 3 chapters out of a book and carry on going. And then I started, that was, at first I was a bit, obviously this is new, and like a lot of the stories in the Old Testament are, God, like he's very rough and he's very violent and he's aggressive. But anyway, so my point is that from that it developed into me saying, okay, I'm going to pray. I know that it's good. I know that meditating is healthy. So I'm going to just in those moments meditate, but with my God, with God. And so I did that. And now what I find is that praying for me isn't necessarily me devoting that time to God, although I am. It's more I'm a communicator. I'm a verbal, I love communicating and I love getting things out. So my meditation is very verbal.
yeah,
So I speak about, I sit there in my space, and whether I'm speaking to God or I just, like I see him as a chana, as a mate, as a chum, like we chat about
yeah.
things on my level. I don't speak like, I'm the old traditional religious way of
Father, I
like you
speak
speak
to
it.
thee. You know, you don't have to. You know, you just
Oh,
basically
you're supposed to be,
it's
hey,
yeah, it's just
yeah,
basically a
like
chummy that you
I'll
chill with, and you're having like a little bro down with your guy, and you guys are just like getting down to the serious things, you know?
And sometimes it's intense because I'm in an intense space. And sometimes it's just so, so grateful. And that's a lot of the time, majority of the time, I'm just sitting in the space being verbally and outwardly and inwardly thankful for adversity, thankful for things
Yeah,
that are happening, like a cup of coffee that tastes nice, some food that I enjoyed eating, the people that I've met, the lessons that I've learned. Once, okay, so end of last year, I plucked my thumb with a hammer. Like I hit myself so hard because I looking my wrist and I missed my target, ended up whacking my thumb, right? And the next morning I sat there and I was like, Lord, like, thanks, bro. Thanks for whacking me.
bringing me back down to
You really
earth.
what? You woke me up. I'm not invincible, and metal is a lot harder than flesh. So cheers,
Yeah.
bro. That was I appreciate it. Really. Like,
Oh
yeah, like
man,
it's a lot of time. And I find that being grateful and showing gratitude outwardly brings so much peace inward. It just brings so
so
much presence and so much peace, because it's the act of gratitude that is the most humbling thing, that besides saying sorry and besides being vulnerable to your mistakes. I
yeah,
think that being grateful is vulnerable, because a lot of people are too proud to say
dude.
thank you, and a lot of people are too proud to say I needed this, thank you for putting it in my path. And I'm just so I'm nothing, like, thanks.
I think
Cheers.
also a lot of
Thanks.
people are too proud to say, I fucked up, or shit, perhaps I was in the wrong there, or perhaps I could have done that differently. I think that pride goes both ways.
Both ways. And exactly like people, I mean, that's a whole new chat. Like
Yeah.
people, people, so many people. And I think we all fall into those periods. I mean, I can't say that I've never been like that because I have. I can't say that I've only always been like, oh, yeah, no, that was me. I fucked up
Yeah.
because I haven't.
No,
Like I
that's
have an ego, I have an ego, and like males are conditioned to be these powerful beings. So by saying sorry, that is vulnerable and that's seen as weakness. So why would you do that?
but it
You
starts
know?
from children, it starts from children. It's like, who farted? I don't know who farted, who farted? It starts from being
Like
kids, we're all like, wasn't me, to protect ourselves. But yeah, it's that being humble enough, that humility of being like, you know what, I fucked up,
fucked up.
and
Like,
I think my my life has changed, as harsh and intense it might have been in some instances, but my life has basically been a lot more chill since I've just been super honest with people. I've been in situations where I tell people, you know what, I don't like you, man. I don't trust you. I don't like you. I don't feel like I can have a conversation with you. And that's a harsh thing to say to someone, but that person knows where he stands with me, and then I don't have to interact with that person ever again. Instead of like screwing myself over and make this asshole of a human being think like I like them. So I actually found there's a lot of
yeah,
value in that honesty and or being saying like, you know what? Yes, I screwed up. That was me. And all of the times people respected that honesty. And even in business, for me, I respect the people who come back to the email and tell me, you know what? I forgot. I'm sorry. I respect that a lot more than people trying to think of an excuse. No, I had to take my girlfriend to the hospital or whatever. I respect that. Listen, dude, I forgot. I'm sorry. And I found from my side as well.
yeah.
If I messed up with my clients, I like, you know what? I am sorry. I forgot to send that mail. That's a lot more accepting than making up an excuse. Yeah, it wasn't my spam or whatever. Like simple little excuses like that.
And but like that's exactly like it that's links into our original chat about community and being accepted and that truth in why you're doing something or how you actually feel about something will help you create a boundary. And people often because they don't want to be rejected or they have pride or they want to be seen in certain lights or they want it also comes with a lot of control. People want to control how others see them, and
Yeah.
and a lot of that comes they lack the truth to be vulnerable or to be honest because they want a certain image to be portrayed. And I mean, we all know when someone's like making an excuse. We all know, like your
we
gut will
know.
tell you
We
someone's
know, dude.
lying. Yeah, but the person will still persist because they're not trained and they're not used to being vulnerable and they're not honest with themselves.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to drink. Why? Because that's not a part of who I am.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
And bang.
Or that's stupid.
But as soon as you start saying like, yeah, I don't feel like it right now, or then they're like, oh, okay, so you still want to drink at some point, so why don't you just, then it's easy to try and sell you that point when you're just brutally honest, like this is not a part of who I am, and I don't agree with this. I'm not saying you should change. I'm just saying that's not what I'm gonna do. Like,
But
doesn't mean we can't be
like I
friends.
said, it's
Like,
people aren't
yeah,
trained to answer certain things either, because you don't have to be 100% honest with everybody about everything the whole entire time. I mean, telling someone, listen, I don't want to talk about that with you is also a valid answer. You don't have to spell out all of your beans to every single stranger or every single person. You can also, relay that information. It's like, listen, um, I'm not comfortable with sharing this with you. You know, I think that act of being honest and vulnerable is one thing, but I think my one friend Fritz told me the other day, you know, we stopped playing because we're scared of getting hurt, and that is basically works emotionally as well. People don't want to get hurt. What's this person going to
Yeah.
think about me? Or how they going to react? Or are they going to get angry? I'm going to get hurt. So they give the easy answer. But I don't think people realize the value that certain types of honesty and vulnerability or, you know, have in the type of instances.
But I mean, and exactly what you did right there is you set an honest boundary by saying, I don't want to speak about this with you.
Yeah.
That's It's honest. It's saying, I don't trust you with the situation, and I'm not in the mood to open up about this because it's a meaningful topic for me. And like that already in itself, that's an honest boundary. That's saying like, this is the line. I'm not going to cross that. Sorry. Like you don't even need to apologize about that. It's just the case
You
of
don't
saying
have to
like,
apologize.
nice, deal.
I mean,
You
my
know,
business
it's
partner
not
and I had
exactly.
a discussion about this the other day where we said, like, you know, if we're in a situation, I don't have to sit in a business meeting with people and to be like, come up with excuses why I don't want to do business with you. I can just say, I don't even have to apologize. I can just stand up and say, thank you for your time, guys. I don't see any business being conducted from this point forward. Thank you for your time. Cheers. You don't have to say, oh, I'm sorry.
No,
I'll send you email, whatever. I mean, what's that going to achieve?
yeah. At the end of the day, it's still the same result. Is that you're not going to do business together. So
And people
look,
know
I
where you
think
stand with them.
we
Yeah.
obviously, yeah. Look, there are obviously ways of being a bit more compassionate than about things. Obviously, when it comes to business, you can be blunt,
Yeah.
but when it comes to personal situation, if the person has a certain value uh, for you, I think that compassion goes a very long way. But if they don't, then I think being blunt is okay. Like I think that, and I agree with you. I think that it's okay just to set a boundary and say, "Cool, this is where we're at. Thank you, bye."
Luke, I've come to that point in my show, and I do this with everybody. If you could say something, you know, in closing, if you could say something to absolutely anyone in the world, if you can leave your timestamp on this podcast so anyone can listen back to it and listen to your words that you utter out right now, what would you say?
I would say just keep going. Whatever it is that you're going through, whether it's good or bad, the good times pass, and so do the bad times, and what's left is you. And I think that if you just take another step, you'll realize that you can carry on walking. And I think that people should just, whatever they're experiencing, just move forward. Just keep going, because it's never the end until it's your end.
Luke, thank you very much for coming on my podcast today. It's been an absolute honor to have you here. It's been a long time coming. I'm very thankful to have met you and to be able to call you a friend. And yeah, I would just like to ask you to just try and stay happy and be inspired. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, Carl. It's been awesome. It's been an absolute pleasure. Like you said, a long time coming. And yeah, since the day we met, we've had this amazing, amazing relationship. And I value you. And yeah, thank you very much. I definitely look forward to how our friendship's going to grow in the future.
Cool, man. Have a good one. Cheers, buddy.
You too. Cheers, buddy. Bye.